Welcome to USA Football's Coach and Coordinator Podcast, where top football coaches from around the country share their stories, philosophies, concepts, and strategies to help you get better on and off the field. Now, here's your host, Keith Grabowski.
Hey, coaches, before we get going today, I just wanted to thank you for all you've been doing to support this podcast, and we have an incredible lineup coming up here. We have just about every major college conference represented. We have a ton of FBS coaches, Division II coaches, Division III coaches, some great high school football coaches coming on the podcast to share with you and help you grow professionally during this time. I really appreciate all of you asking your questions on Twitter. Please follow me at Coach K. Grabowski for our daily updates on our guests and your opportunity to ask questions. We will read them on the show and attribute those to you. So please contribute to the show as much as you can. I also want to talk to you a little bit about our football development model, which is something we've rolled out here at USA Football. And this is really for you to be able to help your youth football programs develop. It's about a long-term athlete development plan, something that comes off of the American development model, which is something that the USOC has put together. The idea is that we're able to teach skills in a progression starting at the youngest ages. We're also looking at the different game types we have, whether that's flag, which is non-contact, limited contact games like padded flag or tackle bar, and full contact, and the right progressions for contact teaching there as well. Be sure to check out all we do at footballdevelopment.com and check out what we're doing with the FDM, the football development model, at usafootball.com/FDM. usafootball.com. On today's podcast, we talk to the offensive coordinator, tight ends, fullbacks coach from national champion North Dakota State University, Tyler Roehl. Tyler was an All-American running back and four-year letterman at North Dakota State from 2004 to 2008. He returned to his alma mater as a tight ends and fullbacks coach in 2014 and was elevated to offensive coordinator in 2019. And we're really excited to be talking to him here today. We have a ton of questions from our listeners. So, Coach, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Really appreciative to have me on, and just this weird time that we're in, and for you to be able to take time to, really invest in us coaches and turn this negative into a positive is really, gratifying to all of us.
Oh, absolutely. And I can tell you, Coach, by the response I've been putting, anytime I get a new guest lined up, I put a little tweet out and say what questions you have for him. And so far, you have been the guy who's gotten the most questions. So we have a lot here for that. But before we get into it, I do want to share your journey through coaching. I think all of us have a unique path to get to where we are right now. And as I mentioned, yours is a lot of it's gone through North Dakota State. But let's go back to the beginning for you. At some point, you decided the coaching profession is for me. What inspired you to become a coach?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, growing up right here in Fargo and playing at NDSU, had a lot of great mentors. We were a part of Coach Bull's first recruiting class here at NDSU. Our class was really the one who laid the foundation as far as just bridging the gap from Division II to Division I. With that transition period, we just didn't have the opportunity to play in the playoffs. Had some FBS wins in there, and our last 2 years we went 10-1. My sophomore and junior year we went 10-1 and 10-1, including a win against a Big Ten opponent. And having those unbelievable people around you and mentors and guys like Coach Bull, definitely, Pat Perlis, Tim Polasek, Brent Vegan, Steve Lockway, a bunch of guys who you really look up to, learn a lot from, see how they live their life. They're great teachers of the game, bring a bunch of passion and energy, guys that I, aspired to be. And once I was done playing at NDSU, had the opportunity to play in the NFL. And the guy who recruited me to North Dakota State was Gus Bradley. And Gus is the defensive coordinator of the Chargers. But at the time, Gus was the defensive coordinator of the Seahawks. And, towards the conclusion of the draft in 2009, had a bunch of calls as far as, undrafted free agency, and, one team was actually potentially going to pick me late. But all that passed, and the guy that called me up right as the draft ended was Gus Bradley. He told me about Seattle, the Seahawks, their vision, how they would see me fitting in, and I took that opportunity. And then unfortunately tore my ACL in OTAs, and they kept me on the team on IR for the 2009 season. And then once there was a head coaching change, wasn't in the plans there, had an opportunity with the Vikings, and didn't work out there. They had drafted Toby Gerhart, and were both similar style running backs. And then was kind of wondering, what do I do? What's the plan? And I always just, in the back of my mind, wanted to be around football. Really as a player, enjoyed practice, really enjoyed practice, enjoyed meetings, enjoyed the whole process of football and not just the games. So, Terry Horan, who's at Concordia College in Moorhead, right across the river here from Fargo, called me up, and, this was early July, and was wondering what I was going to do, and had an opportunity for me to go over there and coach the running backs. And actually they've got a junior varsity squad, Division III football, and said I could call the junior varsity plays. And I'd never called plays before, but it was an opportunity for me to get out of my comfort zone and, kind of be thrust into a leadership position, and took it and ran with it. And they are triple options, so to learn a new style of offense was really good for me. I still tried to install a little bit of the A-gap power there, and do some of my core beliefs that I played with at NDSU. And after that season, there was a graduate assistant position open up here at NDSU, and coaching the running backs. So got in touch with Coach Bohl and that staff, and got hired on here for a graduate assistant position. And at the time, I really wanted to, finish up my degree, teaching degree. I had physical education, non-teaching. And so during my time as a GA, I student taught and was a running backs coach. And that was really hard. There was almost too much on my plate, and I did it to myself. But extremely thankful for that opportunity, and was here for our first national championship at the FCS level, coaching the running backs. And can't, obviously thank that staff enough for allowing me to learn and grow and just be thrust into that position. But finished my student teaching that following spring. And then Kevin Feeney, who's an all-time great up here at NDSU, had offered me a position to coach and be a full-time teacher at Moorhead High School. And, in the profession, just financially, you do have to make sacrifices. And this was just an opportunity for me to have a position and coordinate the defense at a high school level. And honestly, I truly think it helped me as far as just being a coach, because you need to break down and, just teach the base fundamentals and be able to communicate and teach. And I think that helped me in the position that I'm in now. So extremely thankful to Coach Feeney for those couple of years. And once Coach Kleiman got the head job here in 2014, called me up, was in touch with him, and Tim Polasek, who was my position coach at NDSU, who's now the offensive line coach at Iowa. He was had just got the offense coordinator job here, and got the tight ends fullbacks coach here. So did that for 5 years. Was thankful to be a part of, quite a few national championships there, and saying that with no ego at all. But during my time, it just more was put on my plate as far as special teams, the NFL liaison, et cetera, et cetera. And then when Coach Kleiman and some of the guys went to Kansas State, Coach Entz got the head coaching job and asked if I'd be the offensive coordinator. And here I am, and extremely thankful for this role that I'm in, and have surrounded myself with unbelievable people, and looking forward to continuing to try to do things better than ever before here at NDSU. And, unfortunately with spring ball going, not being able to have practice, but, looking forward to build on what we did in 2019.
It's interesting. You tried to slide in the A-gap power for that triple option team, and it definitely comes through that you take a lot of pride in playing that position. As I mentioned to you before we got going, like just a position that for a long time kind of went out of style. I remember people talking about NFL standing for no fullbacks left, right? You weren't even seeing those guys in the NFL, and now they've made a comeback almost at every level. So it's great to see that passion for it. And I know we have a lot of questions in regard to that. And to get things started here, I got a question from Coach Mark Manning from St. Louis, Missouri, and he wants to know about culture cues. What are the day-to-day coaching points and difference makers that allow North Dakota State to dominate year in and year out?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, we, through the recruiting process and just you get to know kids, and, the biggest thing we're not going to do in recruiting is just make sure we're looking at kids with 5 stars, 4 stars, et cetera. They got to fit our culture. They got to fit what we do up here, and just making sure we're getting the right kids in the program. Kids that want to work hard, kids that, once they do get on campus, I mean, they're able to put their ego aside and do what's for the best of the program. Offensively, the kids that we get, we want, tough, smart, physical kids, because our goal, number one, is to be the most physical group in the nation. I think the way we practice, the way we work, our work ethic, we double rep. So during fall camp and spring ball, we double rep our team sessions, meaning we split our team in half. We split our coaching staff in half. We've got the same script of plays on each end of the field, and we're running those plays. So guys are, you're not telling a kid, hey, make sure you're back here and just watching. Make sure you're watching him take these, however many reps. Guys are in there doing it, so you're able to build a ton of depth. And the mindset of we're going to work, and we're going to work against, in my opinion, the best defense in FCS football. So it's the thought of, hey, iron sharpens iron, and we're going to make each other better. Offense is making the defense better. Defense is making the offense better. And then lastly, I truly think our strength coach, Jim Kramer, who's been here, since I was a player, a guy who's, he's unbelievable. He's going to kick you in the butt when you need to get going. He's going to put his arm around you when you're doing a great job. He's all in as far as what we want out of our football team, as far as physicality, tough, hard workers. And he's been a big reason our culture has been, consistent. His message has been consistent with it through our coaches. Coach Entz has stepped in and done an unbelievable job of, NDSU football has stayed NDSU football. But I think those factors are, the reason we've been able to maintain some consistency and been able to win some ball games year in and year out.
Coach, getting a little bit then into your philosophy, Coach Adam Wilson from Georgia just wanted to know what's your overall offensive philosophy?
Yeah, number one, even this offseason, we made some sweatshirts for a few select offensive players and guys that, really did what we asked them to do. And then there was one word on the front of the sweatshirt. It was physical. Number one offensively on all of our position coaches, tips and reminders is going to be, we will be the most physical position group and then physical unit in the nation. That's our goal. And we're going to do it through, like I said, just continuing to tell these kids through the recruiting process, through everything they do about NDSU football, we're going to be physical. We're going to run the ball. We're going to physically dominate the opponent. That is our goal. All 11 from the receivers, and at times they get called perimeter Rams, but Coach Pauly this year done an unbelievable job with that group. Most talented group I think we've had in my time here at NDSU. They're going to be physical. The quarterback's going to be physical. Tight ends, fullbacks, running back, and then obviously the Rams up front, the O-line, need to be the most physical guys on the field. Then it's all about the ball. You can't turn the football over. Time of possession. The more fresh our defense can be, the better we will have. The percentage of us winning goes up. So take care of the football and be really efficient in the passing game. And I want to say the last 2 or 3 years we've led the FCS in passing efficiency and just taking what the defense gives us. I think those 3 things are critical to our success. And the goal we look for is a number that we use for a standard here at NDSU that we traced back to early 2000s is the number 50. If our rushes plus completions are at 50 or above, our winning percentage is extremely high. I'm talking 98, 99%. So if we're able to run the football and complete a few passes, stay on the field, we talk about a softening process of the defense. I mean, just being able to, pound the rock and get, 4, 5, 6, 2, those runs will turn into 10, 12, 20. So those are things that we look for our keys to victory to win a ball game, and then having, a balanced attack and, our tempo isn't one where we're going to go extremely fast. We can get in and out of no huddle. We can get to different tempos, but we're going to huddle. We're going to use our time of possession to our advantage to keep our defense fresh.
With that number 50 in the rushes, are there any numbers you're looking for in that 50, or is it just the rushes count towards that number?
Just a rush. I mean, truly just a rush and a completion. Those are the tallies, and that's going to be 50 or above for us to win the ball game. And there's a few instances where it's just kind of ironic where you get to 47 or 48 and you still win, but that doesn't happen very often. By stance, you're just not running a lot of plays, and you're able to have, short series that turn into potentially explosive plays and touchdowns. But for us to be successful, that number's got to be at 50 or above.
Our next question comes from Coach Kelly in Morgantown, West Virginia. And his question was, how do you effectively use so many formations so efficiently while only running a handful of concepts?
Yeah, that's a goal of ours as far as, being able to be extremely multiple, extremely diverse in the amount of formations we use, personnels we use, shift, trade, motion, all of those things. We can be extremely multiple. But to us, inside of NDSU football, we're simple. Terminology that we use, our defense use, multiple simplicity, being able to do our base things, our base drop back, quick game, play action, screens, run game, whether it be gap scheme, zone scheme. We need to be able to do all of that out of, X amount of formations per week, add the shift trade motion to it. So to muddy up some, pictures to the defense, but it's extremely simple to us, and our guys just truly teaching the base fundamentals of the run game, the base fundamentals of the pass game, so they can cut it loose and play extremely fast.
Coach Dale Harrison from Washington had a couple more questions on the structure, the formations, the movement part of it. And first one was, how do you marry your spread formations with, a smash mouth pro style offense that you're able to still stay true to that philosophy? Because you talked about, right up front, we're going to be physical, we're going to be tough, still have that mentality while being able to spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, I still think, to be able to find, whether it's different fronts, different box structures, through game planning, we can still get to, our downhill running game, whether it's just being in 11 personnel, shotgun, and still being able to run our A-gap power because we have a lighter box. So our guys understand that, if power's called, we're running power. We can run power out of, a pistol delta 3-back set. We can run power out of, we could get out of 11 personnel, out of, 22 personnel. We can still be in gun. We can be in 21 personnel, but have 2 running backs on the field and still run power. All of our guys need to know the rules and principles of what are asked for each scheme, where the scheme wants to hit, what their job entails, and how to effectively perform it at an extremely high level. And it's, as a coaching staff, we need to make sure we're just continuing to put our guys in a position to be successful to help us win.
A big deal was made about the 49ers this year and the amount of shifts and motions they use. And I know a lot of coaches who went to, that fast tempo. We're going to get in 2x2 or 3x1. They're looking to add more of those hybrids. They're also looking to utilize more shifts and motions. And Coach Harrison also wanted to know, how do you go about calling your motions and shifts? I think I've had a lot of coaches with that. I remember Matt Drinkle and I going through some different ways to do that when we were at our national conference in Louisville just last month. So I think there's always something to be learned here to be able to keep it concise and succinct and not overburden players with terminology to get in the shift. But how do you guys do that?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm a huge fan, with this time being able to watch some NFL film that you don't really get to in the fall. The 49ers are a huge fan of what they do, the Ravens. But, for us, we have terminology and words, with us being a huddle team, we can just communicate all that off the wristband. Just jump is jump and trade is trade. We've got a couple things that, we've got terms that can get us, in a spread formation and then reduce us to a condensed formation or I formation, because we could be spread out in 13 personnel and then come into a 3 tight end nub side formation with a receiver split out. We could start in a condensed I formation or old school Maryland I formation and explode out to a spread formation. We've got some terms that include a jump or a trade and a motion. There are just some other small tags that may alert someone to get to a final formation, put that player in a position to be successful to execute that scheme that is called. So we call everything. We have certain words or tags that allow our guys to get in a position to be successful for whatever is called for that scheme.
He also had a question about overload formations, using those, practicing those, probably even, how do you decide, this is the overload we want to use this week, et cetera? What things, I guess, are you looking for that you might find an advantage?
If you're getting to, overload unbalanced formations, what are you seeing in game planning? Is it a odd front or a zero nose, and then you're getting to, a potential overload unbalance where they're having to knock the front to get, so then you're really getting almost a 4-down front. Are they able to adjust to the overload? If you shift and then get to an overload, are they adjusting back to it? Are they realizing that? How is the defense identifying the overload? Where are you able to gain numbers, or where are you short? Where are they short? What kind of box structure can you get to, if you're able to get to, a backer removed from the box, all those things play into, determining, what overload formations we use on a week-to-week basis, and then potentially using, the jet motion, for potential power read or potential zone read out of it. Just where is the defense short? That's how we determine, through game planning, where are they short if we are using, an unbalanced or overload set, and how is the front or linebackers adjusting to that formation. Those things are truly critical to our success. We'll use not quite a few, but let's just say 4 to 5 a week. And that's a chunk of our game planning where we're going to invest as far as how are they adjusting to those overload formations.
Yeah, that's something when you do it, I know you have to go in and kind of maybe even study the structure of their defense and understand how they might adjust. How much time do you spend on thinking about their potential adjustments or in general adjustments that you might see over the course of the season when you get into an overload and you really haven't seen it on film from anybody else?
Yeah, it gets hard. And then, you really got to predict. And there are instances where we get to that. As a coach, you truly want to see it for yourself. How are they going to align, or how have they aligned? And sometimes, you do predict, and this is what they've done to this unbalanced set. So just based off, knowledge of what they've done or what they've done in the past. If it's a common opponent, this is what they did maybe 2 seasons ago, or you can go back and look at, just dig through some film, but just use your own football IQ to predict on how they're going to align to those certain formations, so it provides a benefit to your guys to be in a position to be successful.
As I mentioned, a lot of these guys have some questions about the fullback position and tight end position, and this has come up really with a couple of our tight end fullback type coaches here, and this one's from Scoop Reed, and he wants to know, how do you practice the tight end and fullback, hybrid type guys who are doing run, they're doing pass? How do you get them enough of the pass and run game reps within what you do in your individual, team, etc.?
Yeah, I love it. This is the wheelhouse. From being a fullback myself, for my first 2 years at NDSU, I love the position. And the biggest thing here at NDSU, I think it's a huge benefit to us to have all those guys in the same room, as far as meeting, hearing the same message, hearing the same coaching points. Out on the practice field for individual, and we do a lot of individual time here at NDSU to work on the base fundamentals, coaching points. Sometimes, the tight ends and fullbacks will go with the tackles and work some combination, et cetera, go with the quarterbacks, but we're always together. They all need to be able to do, the fullbacks need to be able to do some inline stuff, on the ball tight end stuff. Now, how often will they do that in a game? Probably not a ton. But when we practice and we double rep and we take as much repetition as we do, they need to be able to do everything. So we make sure that all those guys can play inline, can play flexed, can play in the backfield, truly in the dot as a fullback. So they rep everything together. They all need to be able to kick out power. They all need to be able to be on the front side of, our outside power, our outside zone, our pin pull scheme. So, as a coaching staff for us to have all those guys in the same position as far as group together, I think is a huge benefit. And then just making sure through a week that, we personnel a lot of that stuff. So maybe it's X whatever personnel, to make sure we're putting the guys who have those best fundamentals or the talent, to be flexed out or inline the most. We put those guys in that position, on during the week mostly. I'm saying out of spring ball, out of fall camp, but when we're in the season, they're doing the things that they can do the best, and just putting them in a position to help the team the most. So it's more by personnel and making sure in practice they're getting the reps that they need to be successful.
Getting into a little of that fullback technique, and you mentioned the kick out on power, and offensive coordinator from Marysville, Kansas, Mitchell Shepard, wanted to know about the techniques and drills that you use to teach a kick out block.
Yep, I love it. Okay, so our true A-gap power, the fullback, he's got the biggest job. I truly believe that. The O-line, making sure they're absolutely removing the A-gap is huge and crucial. But if you do not land a kick out and have the ability to kick out the C-gap, you can't run the play. So from a fullback standpoint, he's going to gain ground right on the midline of the guard. He's going to step downhill about 6 inches. Okay, he's going to bring his second step with him, all the while trying to keep his shoulder square, not rising up, exceeding his pad level. His hips need to exceed the defender's hips. Okay, so he is absolutely sprinting for the midline of the play side guard. Okay, the play side guard and tackle are trying to absolutely remove whatever's in the B gap, A gap. Okay, so he's going to trust and scrape paint off the play side tackle to kick out whatever's off of his hip. Okay, so he's sprinting, he's gaining ground with his first step, bringing his second step with him, and then at the point of contact, okay, he's going to be same foot, same shoulder. His near foot, his play side foot needs to go down really the midline or the crotch of the defensive end. Okay, his shoulder pad needs to be under the chin of the defensive end. He needs to stay square, because if he gets turned, if his hip or if he gets turned at all, he's not strong. You need to be square. Square is strong to us. Exceed pad level of the defensive end, stay square, same foot, same shoulder on contact, and run your feet and sprint the, lift the defensive end out of there. Better to obviously show off a film, but those would be the base teaching points that I would give the fullback. You can't get spilled. Nothing matters outside of the kickout. If he lands the kickout, nothing matters. So he's got the biggest job. He needs to stay, tight. Trust that the play side guard and tackler, they're going to get movement out of their gap. He's going to scrape paint, be paper thin. But once he gets to, attacking the B to win the C and exceeding pad level and running his feet on contact, we got to remove and eject that defensive end.
Now, does that path that he's taking, does that, eliminate some of, what the wrong armor is trying to do, or are there certain things you're looking for against those wrong arm techniques?
Yeah, no, that's where it gets really difficult on us. When you get hard spill, wrong arm DNs who are almost, sometimes we'll see defensive ends that are almost losing ground on their side of the line of scrimmage to wrong arm or fullbacks. So the biggest thing, and for us to stay square, working on that J path to win our gap, if we're getting wrong, to stay square and then absolutely ISO the defensive end. You want to put your face in, you still exceed pad level, still staying in good athletic, with good demeanor, and sprint through that defensive end and just eject him north. Keeping coverage. If we get turned at all and there gets color in that gap, then we lose. So we need to stay square, and then it almost turns into an ISO and just continue to drive and remove that defensive end or whoever's in C gap.
Yeah, that's a good coaching point. I like that there. I'm building off of the fullback position. Adam Wilson had a question about everyday drills for tight ends and fullbacks. What kind of stuff are you doing every day with those guys?
Yeah, biggest thing is just, what's the footwork necessary that we need to execute, whether it's on our pin pull, whether it's on, our backside cutoff of, inside zone, front side, outside zone, just our base individual blocks that we need to continue to rep to be successful. All work, route combat. We use the tight ends quite a bit in, our quick game, and definitely have been a huge target for us in the red zone with, I think 16 to 18 touchdowns down in the red zone this year. So continuing to work on route combat, top of the route, some of our small adjustments with man coverage, zone coverage, and just continuing to work the top of the route so they can transition. I still think, some of the everyday stuff, as you go through a season, and again, not saying this with an ego, but we've been able to play until the beginning of January. We need to, and I want to, train our guys just, staying athletic. So we'll get, we'll do different things through the agility bags and those big hand pads, and just make sure they're, working different things with the route combat stuff. And shoot, it may look like almost football camp out there, just making sure we're working on staying athletic and being able to bend and move and change direction. And it, like even just wave drill, stuff they do with our strength and conditioning coach, I'm doing in some of our individual drill early, to create some sweat, to make sure they're loose and ready to go, and, not tight for our practice, but making sure that they're able to stay athletic through the duration of a long season.
What's been unique in this comeback of the fullback position is, as they come back into use, for a lot of teams, that fullback was like the extra guard. Now these guys are very dynamic. You see, the Niners fullback and what he's able to do, and just some of these other guys like really stress a defense. So Coach Jordan Ersick, who's at Syracuse High School in Kansas, wanted to know what unique ways you have to utilize fullbacks in the pass game.
Some of our just downhill power, we got the power pass off of it. He's selling like he's kicking out the power, bypassing or bluffing the defensive end, getting out to the flat. That's something that's probably been, it was let's just say 2014 to 17, just the personnel we had wasn't, we weren't able to stretch, the defense laterally and get someone out to the flat as quick. This year we've got a kid who, rushed for, 80 touchdowns in high school, who's a really good player, was only a freshman last year, probably caught 20 balls in the flat. That's probably the biggest way, the best way. And some of our just stick concept, under center, quick game, getting them out to the flat, doing some downhill power action and sending the fullback right up the middle of the field. You get those, able to pull the safeties out of there in some sort of cover four, and then you've got that linebacker in a conflict, and that, whether it's a sell in a, an isolation to bypass and slip to send the fullback right up the middle of the field has been okay for us. But the biggest way is just for us to get the fullback out to the flat off of some play action.
I got some questions. You've mentioned power here a few times now, so we do have some questions about power, of course. You guys have become known for that. We got some great articles we put together on our website about the power run game and stuff we've seen you guys do. But Coach Eric Becker wants to know about running power out of two tight end sets. What are some of the keys you're looking for as far as what side to run that to in the look, coaching points, etc.?
Yeah, I always think the best, through game planning, how are you able to pull someone out of the box? So whether it's getting into a slot formation where they got to try to cover down number two, how are you able to get the lightest box possible? And those are the biggest things that as a staff we're looking for to run the football. So if some of those two tight end sets, whether it's 12 personnel or 21 personnel, those are the biggest things that we look for. And, even in, 22 personnel, I know it's two tight end set, but having also a fullback in there, what fronts are you able to, again, they may cover down the tight end, be right on the line of scrimmage, able to get to, a lighter interior box. So they may rotate the Sam to an underfront and have a 4-2 box and still have the ability to run against a lighter box. Those are the things that we're looking to run the A-gap power out of two tight end set.
Yeah, it's funny because, people like to look at numbers, and just basing on numbers doesn't exactly tell you whether something should be, oh, wow, look at all these guys they got in the box. You have to think about how you're stressing them. And I can remember a game when I was coaching at Baldwin Wallace where we were facing a team that had everybody underneath 10 yards. But we were doing some things with motion and, with a keeper where, honestly, wing T concept, you're attacking both flanks, both perimeters with, a sweep threat or a sweep to one side, naked threat or naked to one side, and then you got that play up the middle. And because of that, because of how players have to play their gap responsibility, especially if they tighten down so that their reaction has to be a lot quicker, we almost turned it into back to like a 3-2 box that you would see against a 2x2 spread formation. So it's not all about, just saying, oh, well, spread allows you numbers, because there's some numbers you could get into with two tight ends and even fullbacks in the game.
For sure. And those are just some of the biggest things that, through game planning that, we're gonna try to find the best ways to get numbers as far as, in the run game. And then, okay, let's load the box and, try to find ways to get the ball out to the perimeter as well.
Couple details on the power play. Coach Nate Schallenberger has a question about it. He says, it looks like the guard is reading when he pulls on power on film. In other words, slow pull so that he can come back to the backside A. How do you get that taught or drilled in what he's looking for? And, obviously it's a great play for combating down and around inside linebackers who chase the puller.
Yeah. And, the biggest thing is, I think offensively for us up front to stay square. Like I said, I think square is strong. And for us to be masters of moving the line of scrimmage, we got to stay square. So for the backside guard to pull on power, he's going to stay square. He's going to kick off the line of scrimmage, and it's a square shuffle pull. Have some good tempo to it. So he's going to, kick off the line of scrimmage and stay in good demeanor. His knees bent, his ankles, his hips. He's got a good reverse arc. His eyes and chin is up, and it's shuffle. And he understands that if, and it's a big if because we don't want it to happen, if the fullback doesn't land the kick out, he's got to be the one who double bumps it and cleans it up. So he's going to stay tight to the down blocks, understanding that if the fullback doesn't get it kicked out, he's going to be the double bump, but then he's going to keep his eyes on his backer and stay tight. Now, all of these, we do have ID points on who everyone's working to, but really it's all spots. Everyone is absolutely sprinting through spots. So he's going to keep his eyes on his backer, but stay tight and be inside of the kick out, okay, outside of the double team. And his biggest rule is to be able to, once he does decide to go north, he is sprinting. And his biggest thing is he can't get spilled either. There's coaching points to the play as far as where we want the ball to hit, but when he goes to block his linebacker, he's got to get his eyes in everything inside, through the inside half of the linebacker that he blocks. So is he really reading anything? No, he's on his track, and he is absolutely doing everything he can to, if there is color at the line of scrimmage, he's got to be the one who cleans it up and double bumps through his assignment to his linebacker, and then he just absolutely sprinting. When he decides to go north, he is sprinting through his assignment.
A practice question here on the power. Luke Menzel, who is an assistant coach at Cedar Grove Belgium High School in Wisconsin,
I think,
wanted to know what are your top practice drills to rep the A-gap power with the offensive line?
We don't get to do this a ton during the season, but definitely try to do it, when we are full padded or for sure half padded, just doing half line. And we'll do that almost every other practice and make sure we're hitting our base schemes, whether it's our power or something off of the power or any of our zone schemes or pin pull, and just doing our base schemes off half line. And I think it needs to be almost in a team setting to rep the power and make sure everyone gets the right pictures. I think just to work the lateral combination with the O-line is really good. To work the individual stuff with the fullback is good. But to do it in a half line setting is the best for us. And to be able to go against our defense, and the ones will be against the ones, and we're working half line, and it's rapid fire from the left hash is running some of our left plays, and the right hash is running our right-handed plays, and we're rolling. And I think to do it in a half line setting is the best, and allow the defense to do some movement. Whether it's internal movement with their D line or some sort of pressure, off of maybe full slide in the D line, sticking their gaps and whatnot, but just to continually give us different pictures for our base schemes, just so our guys are, rules and principles. You're working through your gap. Never pass opposite color jersey to get another color jersey. Always block the first level first. Then you have a greater chance to have a successful play. Don't go trying to chase something else. Just what are the rules and principles of play, okay? And now I'm going to not pass color to get color. So if my ID, if whoever I'm going to is 5 yards, downfield, and someone else has crossed my face, well, I got to block that. And I truly think those things, the things that we preach, allowed us to, we didn't have very, very many negative plays at all this year, or the turnovers. I think we only had 6 turnovers this year. Just not having extra hats on the ball carrier, especially at the mesh point or right at the line of scrimmage. So always blocking first level first. But those are things that have helped us in the run game as far as just working half line and rapid fire, and then coaching it off the film as well.
He had a follow-up question on the running back, and especially if you think about that, maybe that freshman back who comes in and didn't run power at his high school. What kind of things are you doing to teach him that play and the vision and, the cut, the acceleration he has to have on that play?
Yeah, the first thing would be is if you decide to bounce it, you're probably not going to play a whole lot. But, obviously just coming from the stance and alignment, 7.5, especially if the quarterback is under center and whichever direction that we're going, let's just say we're going to the right, he's going to get off the midline with a 6-inch aggressive step off the midline. And then he is absolutely sprinting downhill. And if, some of these kids, if we got to deepen them up a little bit, we may do that. But this thing is an absolute sprint. And he is sprinting through the play side A gap. For a coaching point, would say, if you could find the inside hip of the pulling guard, would be a benefit to you. Read keys and all that, there really ain't a whole lot of read keys. And for me playing the position, I am sprinting through the front side play side A gap. If it isn't there, I'm taking it backside right now. Those are truly the teaching points. It's almost like you've got two trains that are passing in the night, and this thing just opens up, and you got to just absolutely accelerate through the smoke. And it's a downhill play. It's running your knees through traffic, through contact. But the biggest thing for him to be successful, he's got to get off the midline with his first step. He can't just split and come downhill because then he'll run right into the quarterback, and then everything's got to bubble. You got to get off the midline. I'd say stay on and inside the hip of the pulling guard, front side A to back side A, and sprint. An arm tackle can't take you down. You got to be able to win a 1-on-1, 2 once you get to the backside safety. Go score a touchdown. Have fun with it.
Coach Adam Wilson had a good question here about game planning, and his question is, when game planning, what's the first 3 things that stick out to you about a defense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, where are their strengths? Where are their dudes? Okay, where are their weaknesses? Where can you attack their weaknesses? That's probably first and foremost, just off of personnel and knowing what they have. What's their base structure? Are they 3 down? Are they 4 down? Are they multiple? What are the things that we like versus 4 down compared to 3 down, and make sure that we're emphasizing that and making sure we're getting the communication from, our center and quarterback to everyone else as far as these are the things that we like against these fronts. And then are they a field alignment defense? Do they always just have these players to the field and these players to the boundary? How are they setting their defense? Are they calling the strength to the tight end always? Are they calling the strength to the passing strength? And then what are their top, 2-3 base pressures? And then with those pressures or with those fronts, what's the, top 3-4 coverages that they're going to be in? Are they always a Tampa 2? Are they a high man coverage? What's the base defense that we're going to see? Okay. And we may game plan for that, and just understanding, knowing that defense could change in a heartbeat. I mean, you could game plan for 4 down and come out, and they're coming out and double eagle, cover 0, and always having answers. So, as we communicate and, talk through the week, just the what ifs, what if. But you got to understand what you see on film is what you got to trust and game plan from that standpoint.
Staying in that idea of game planning, Coach Shepard wanted to know what you look for in the short yardage and goal line situations. What kind of things go into game planning those?
Yeah, knowing we're going to be in probably some sort of heavy personnel, 3 tight ends, sometimes, 3 tight ends and an extra lineman or 2 extra linemen, have an lineman at fullback, all those things. Just what are the top fronts or just even the base goal line package that a defense is going to have? Is it a double eagle front? Is it, having 5 or 6 defensive linemen that they're going to have on the field? Where are they the weakest? Even personnel wise, where can you get 1 yard of movement and be masters at moving the line of scrimmage at that weak opponent to get your yard or your 2 yards to score a touchdown? what can you do off of your, maybe what you've already put on film through the season, off of a run, to maybe have a play action or some sort of play action off of some things that you've already done. How does that fit against what you're seeing on film for this week? And maybe you don't have to, or maybe you're not liking the pictures that you're getting out of a heavy personnel, a goal line formation, and being able to get into an 11 personnel. How are they covering down the receivers? How, are they just, there's a man coverage, and, you're just going to say your guy is better than their guy and, throw a fade ball. Something we haven't done a ton of, but I think we've got some personnel where we can do that. So those are the top things. We're going to look at how can we run the ball effectively and get a yard and be masters at moving the point of attack there. And then, what have we put on film where we can potentially do something off of it that still fits? And then, where can we get our guys in a position to be successful, maybe to create separation in a route concept?
We've got a couple more questions here for you as we wrap this up on the passing game. And Coach Menzel wanted to know, what is your base drop back passing game?
Yeah, the things that we have found to be the most successful, and for our quarterback, who was a redshirt freshman last year, who played well enough to get the Walter Payton Award, Trey Lance, who's an unbelievable kid, Marshall, Minnesota kid, and for him to play the fastest, we all have trust in him to put the ball in the right position. We've just found that in our drop back pass game, full field concepts are the best for him to be able to, identify this is the coverage, this is where I got to go with the ball. This is what we're seeing, this is what we're going to get, this is where I need to go with the ball. Those things have allowed him to play extremely fast and confident, and again, just all the trust in the world that he's going to take care of the football. So, you're looking at just our base, drive concept, flanker drive with a 12-yard basic in behind it, getting the tailback to burst opposite, and then potentially even having, what two-man game to the field, just number one running a vertical and number two running a 12-yard out. And being able to switch those based off coverage. If it's man coverage, getting a man beater out there through game planning, or a different zone beater. That's probably number one thing we're going to look at. Four verts has been a benefit to us. Curl flat concept, just things where our guys, even if it's man coverage, being able to win on a curl. Sell them vertical, throw them by, and being able to win at the top of the route, or Tampa 2 just taking the sit all day in the middle of the field, just being able to throw it to our tight ends and getting 5, 6, 7 yards at a time. Those are probably the top three, and we've got a couple different full field concepts off of the drive that we can get to. Full field mesh is something that we've, been able to run effectively, efficiently on some of our third down settings. If we're getting a high probability of man coverage, doesn't have to be, but that's where we found it to be the most successful for us, and different things we can do, with two-man games to the field as far as, trying to win versus man coverage as well. But full field concepts we feel have been the best to us. And, off of those 3-4 concepts, maybe being able to do them out of, even 22 personnel, 13 personnel, 10 personnel we got in the snap. We even had a couple snaps of 40 personnel having 4 running backs on the field. Being able to do those out of every shift trade motion, formation, personnel, so our guys can play fast and still, again, hard for a defense. But having our base full field concepts is what's been the most successful for us offensively.
And obviously you got to protect those. Coach Harrison had a question on that. As far as what you take into a game week to week, how many protections do you usually like to include?
Yeah, our base drop back, just the man side and the zone side, the slide side. That's our biggest drop back. Quick game, full slide. So 2, you're going to have a form of play action off your power, whether it's getting the fullback out to the flat or keeping the fullback in for protection. So that's 3. Our power read has probably been one of our most explosive, efficient run plays that we've had over the last 2 to 3 years, having a play action off of that. 4, and then, the duo play that has been run, it was really efficient, really effective. for us, Coach A.J. Blazik, who was at Rutgers, who's done an unbelievable job with our offensive line last year, is to brought that to NDSU, and we ran that at a high level, so having a play action off that. I'd say anywhere from 5 to 6, honestly, knowing that we need to be able to cover all of our bases versus exotic pressures with our drop back pass, and then having the ability to have that protection and getting the tailback out free as well, so having an empty off of it. So not trying to be too exotic in protections, because the biggest thing is being efficient in the passing game, being able to protect the quarterback and keeping the quarterback upright. So not having too many exotic protections to where we can protect everyone, and just being able to have our rules and principles to be able to efficiently throw the football.
And our last listener question here is from Mitchell Shepard again. And I think this one will warm your heart a little bit. He said, what advice would you give in making the fullback great again?
Oh, I love it. Just making sure, continuing to, have them just be an absolute physical downhill presence, throwing them a token every once in a while, whether it's getting the ball in the flat. My goal, so quick story, Garrett Maelstrom, Frazee, Minnesota, was an O-lineman, D-lineman in high school. Frazee, small town right down Highway 10. And so Garrett, he didn't catch a ball until his senior year. We got him a couple, receptions out in the flat. My goal was to get that kid a touchdown and just continue to find ways for them to, they are truly an extension of the O-line. And to give them, throw them a bone, to make the fullback great again, to get them in the end zone. My goal was to get him a touchdown, and I couldn't do it this year. So, even having the old school fullback trap or fullback belly on the 1 yard line, or just, we had the other fullback who scored a million touchdowns in high school. He got 2 in the flat, but, I'd still think getting the ball in their hands, because everyone does see them as a true, blocker, going to isolate you, going to kick out the power, going to get out on the perimeter on pin, pull, or outside zone, but finding ways to get the ball in their hands and, let them have a little bit of glory in the end zone. I think that, in turn will have everyone see the fullback in a different light. And you're seeing that with the fullback in San Francisco. He's a specimen. He's a really good blocker, catches the ball well. They scored a couple touchdowns, scored one in the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly. That is, if we're able to do that, the fullback will be great again. It's just finding the right guys who have that mindset of, I'm going to kick your butt blocking, but I'm also going to be a threat out in the flat.
Coach, you shared a lot of great technical and tactical stuff here, and we really appreciate that. My last question is for you. Is all the things you do as a coach, what's the one thing you'd say that really gives your players the winning edge?
Yeah, I think it's our mindset. As a coaching staff, we're in the business of being great teachers, but I think on our staff, we've got great people, and we have a genuine appreciation for all of the players that we come in contact with. But for myself, being a great teacher, and just, it's a people business. And if you can't truly connect, I'm talking about, I just use the thought process of, the cell phone bars. If you've got one bar with a player, you're not going to be able to connect and put them in a position to be successful, because they're not going to go the extra length for you. And you're just, your whole line of communication, that service, that cell phone service, those 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. If you've got 4 bars with the kid, he's going to go the extra mile. He's going to dive into every single word that you're telling him. He's going to then probably go and turn and get the other guys to rally around. This thing's all about connection. If you can connect with your players, if you can connect with them on a day-to-day basis, and more just about football, they will go the extra mile and be ultra competitive and ultra successful for you on Saturday. And it's not having a fake connection. It's got to be real, and you got to have trust in one another, and trust, and even connection within your staff. And I think that's what we've all been able to do, is put our ego aside, work together, have, humble, blue collar guys who have a work ethic, guys who have the mindset of, we get to double rep. As a coaching staff, that's a lot on us of watching extra film, but we get to do those things, and we don't have to do this. We get to do this to try to do things better than they have been done before, and this special place with great people, and look forward to continuing to try to win more ball games in the future.
Coach Roehl, how can our listeners connect with you if they have more questions?
Yeah, I think Twitter is the easiest. Just at Ty Roehl, TYROEHL. That's the biggest thing. Seriously, send. In this time, we're all in weird times with this pandemic going on, and I've reached out to a few. I've reached out to and gotten a hold of a couple NFL coaches, and looking forward to. I mean, if this thing goes on for a week or so, just how can we, as a coaching, whatever you want to call it, how can we help each other? How can we invest into each other and help each other grow, answer each other's questions, so we can all become the best coaches, the best people that we can be, and turn this negative into a positive. So Twitter's the biggest thing as far as just sending direct message, follow. As we've got time, I'm more than willing to help people, at all levels, and I'm not Vince Lombardi, but what's been able to help myself, our program, be successful is what I'll be able to help and share with.
Well, Coach, that's what this podcast is about all year round, but especially during this time. And I really appreciate you taking the time here. And thank you also to all our listeners for the great questions. And, I can't do it without you, and I can't do it without the listeners. So I want to thank both of you.
No, thank you. And thank you for doing this for all of us in this time. And if there's anything more that we can do, we will, but really appreciative of the content that you're putting out there for us.
Coaches, again, I want to remind you of what we're doing with the football development model. Please push this down to your youth coaches. I think this is a great way for you to get some organization and structure beyond what you've already done. Check it out, all of our program development for youth football at fdm.usafootball.com. Again, check out our systems for blocking, tackling, and defeating blocks at footballdevelopment.com. If you register with your email, you get your choice of 3 free videos. There's some great things in there. I think things that as you get going again, you can get into the summer and maybe make up on some things that you might have lost if you had a spring ball, if you had time here in the spring to work on football. Some great drills for all those phases of contact. If you're enjoying the podcast, please head over to iTunes or your platform and give us a 5-star rate. If you have a minute, write a review. We really appreciate it, and we will read your review on our highlight show that we do at the end of the week.